Herzlich willkommen zu unserer 19. Podcast-Ausgabe Chat with Funky Space. Ja, ich begrüße Sie. Ende Juli schreiben wir. Neben mir sitzt meine liebe Kollegin Toni und ist bereits im Beginn, sich langsam auf ihre Aufgabe wieder einzustellen. Es geht bei ihr meistens so schnell. Es ist fast wie ein Einstellen, wie ich gerade gesagt habe, nicht nur ein Vorbereiten, sondern ich sehe es ihr förmlich an. Sie ist so stark mit sich beschäftigt. Ja, uiuiui, ja, dieses Mal, also ich merke, nach einer längeren anfänglichen Sommerpause kommt eine geballte Energie und ich bin wirklich gespannt, was wir heute alles hören dürfen zur aktuellen Weltsituation, zur politischen, zur wirtschaftlichen, in der wir im Augenblick stehen, zur geopolitischen Situation, zu den Ereignissen, die sich täglich quasi überhäufen. Und ich höre euch.
Yes, hello,
ich heiße Sie herzlich
Space
willkommen.
Radio. Back from vacation.
Richtig.
Well, we are always on vacation. It's another term of how we are living. Well, we are also looking and doing, and we are also bringing new informations to the world. And excuse me, I just started to talk.
Oh,
excuse
gerne.
me.
Ich habe Ihre Energie schon so gespürt dieses Mal. Ich musste fast noch ein bisschen mich am Stuhl festhalten, damit diese ganze Information wirklich hier herein darf, und ich gebe den Platz so gerne frei. Herzlichen Dank für Ihr Dasein.
Yes, thank you so much. So we really want to say that in the months in your world, months of August, it's an energy which has become very I would really say explosive, in the meaning of what is explosive in your world. We talked last time that volcanic ashes will be something which will just be shown also in the world, or which will come up in the world. But what does that mean, volcanic ashes? So it can be volcanic ashes from a volcanic activity. It can be also that let me say what we don't need up here, because we want to, or I talk from the space, I talk from the universe, I talk from the energy from this space is coming down to Earth. And you need to understand that also other planets have an energy which can explode. So the world, your world, is so many years old, so millions of years old, and it was always ongoing in something. It was always something exploring and exploding. And what happens also in this month is something which comes, or in these upcoming months, which comes down to Earth. And what does that mean also for the world? What does that mean also for human beings? What does that mean also for nature? We always say it also in the last podcast that the world has to balance. The world has its own mathematics. The world needs a new energy to go forward. And we always talked also about the animals which are not there anymore. So everything is in frequency, was in frequency, and will be also in the future in frequency. That means that in the months of August and September, the energy is renewing itself again. It's something which happens millions of years ago. And in that, but millions of years ago, there were no people, there were just plants, there were lakes, there were water, there was a sea, there were mountains, everything which built up the world. The human beings, let me say, this being a human came up much later, and this is something which the world is unknown in that. It's what you had in your books. You studied what you could study, but you don't know it really in what that means for the world. What does that mean for the nature? So during that time, also the the sky will be different. You will see different colors in the sky. You had already in some parts in the world, you had different lights, and it will be much more, and it expands much more. It expands much more also the waves. It expands much more, the quality of water. So you will have, and we talked also about that in the past, that the quality of water changes, and you have also like outbreaks of little tsunamis. What does that mean? You're there at the beach, and what does that mean for people? You know what is a tsunami, but you don't know how fast it can go. And this is something what we want to explain also to human beings. As soon as you see that the sky and also the water just take another, let me say, I would say another rhythm. Really observe that and just run away, this, and just put yourself away from water. And so also it's not only at the sea, it can be also on lakes, but a lake is not the same thing as a sea, but it makes and it change the quality of water. So people which are living also, formally in the near of lakes and water, or also rivers, just really expect also that water comes up. Expect that this is just something that take much more place in the future. And starting now August, September.
Also das Wasser, entschuldigen Sie, wenn ich hineingrätsche, das Wasser bricht aus diesen Flüssen, Seen, aus dem Meer von unten hoch und verbreitet sich.
It is different as the tsunami that from history, from the last big tsunami that you had, and it's something that you need to look differently. And also, if you have a scientist in that matter, it is something which the world doesn't know yet. In this, let me say, it is spectacular to see it as a natural something new, but it is also dangerous. That's why we are really telling, look at what water, the combination of water and what it does. And it's for sure not something that you can make sports, because it takes like inner I need to say, it's like you have like typhoons. You can explain, as a scientist, you can explain a typhoon, but you can't explain a typhoon which goes into the water, and which comes from the earth, and it gets out in the water, and it can be also in lakes and in seas, and also, the power is different. And what I mean with that is that also the energetic system changed. And we talked about that already in the first podcast that you have done or you are doing, that the energy and also the gravity of the world rules the world differently, energetically and naturally. It gives spectacle pictures, but it gives also the danger.
Also this ist very important. Die spektakulären Bilder, wie jetzt die Nordlichter, die wir hier auch in unseren Breitengraden gesehen haben, meinen Sie die damit? Einfach als Erscheinung auch, die sehr ungewohnt ist.
Exactly. Yes. And so you need to understand that focusing in the future, nature gives you different pictures. Nature gives you different danger. And we need to say and speak that out, that you understand also that life at sea, or life near to the water, or let me say build up buildings near to the water. You need to understand now the natural power. What does that mean? Because it changes also the life of many people and cities as well, and this worldwide. It's not something that you just can put and say it from a region. You need to understand that, because you don't have just the sea somewhere, you have sea around the world. And it is a happening which will really, let me say, increase all over the world. So, you need to make and give different rules also what is security, because it is not something that you can say, well, this was, millions of years ago, or the last tsunami that you had in a big, let me say, wave was more than 20 years now ago. So you need to, about 20 years, you need to understand now nature just takes another force to rebuild the world. This is very important, that you understand also how people react on that, how people live together in the future, and how people also have to leave some parts of the world. It's not only because right now you're very focused on places where you have lots of heat and where you don't have food. The people have to move. But now also
Hungersnöten.
Yes. And now you need to understand that also water just gives this completely new picture in the world. And also with that, volcanic activities are really increasing also during that time, because the world is just really putting out the energy from the inside. That's why, what I told before, the typhoons are not in the air, but they are just coming like from the earth. And with that also, that kind of forces are changing. So you need also to understand that where you didn't expect earthquakes until now, because scientists in your world are even if you have computers in your world and you can define, the forces and how much magnitude it has and things like that, you can't understand let me say it's like overwhelming what you had until now. And with this I mean that it goes to a location where you didn't expect it.
Es ist das gesamte System, was sich verändert.
Exactly, and this is something which we really need to say, that in your world you start to comprehend nature differently.
Ja, und das ist der Punkt, den wir auch neu lernen sollen.
As human beings, you need to do it, because you can't survive as human beings if you don't look at that, in a completely different matter. You need to understand what is going on with the world. So also projects which people had in mind or people wanted to do, especially also big elements into water, big elements into somewhere where you just can the thinking of human being is that nature is always focused on what the human beings wants to, and now this changed completely, because nature takes over that, and we talked about that also in other podcasts. And you need to understand. And now, as human beings, you can say, well, how and why are you telling us that? Why are you just bringing us this? It's like being, saying a catastrophe of something. You need to understand that. Many decades ago, and you see it also from what also was built on Earth, they built up things not near, the sea. They built up things in different locations. They built up, to secure people, where they didn't need to be afraid of water or heat. So you need to understand that this is also an evolution step, how human beings want to live together. What you had until now, it was because nature was, let me say, like it was not staying still, in something, but it moved differently. And now it's a different moving, it's a different changing. And so also, what does that mean also for companies? What does that mean for human beings? What does that mean, for daily life? You need to understand, if you build up for example, a school, and you had just always that way to go to school. These children, these pupils needed to go that way to school. It can be completely different in 1 month, because nature just, let me say, it's not a destroying, but it changed. The route. So you need to understand that this is something that you have to be focused on in the future.
Ja, und neu müssen wir das begreifen und ergreifen. Ja.
And it's something which is important also, because you have to go away from your old thinking.
Yeah.
Nature will form now new life. Nature will tell you how you have to live, because building up something in the old system, it doesn't mean that it exists and it starts to continue, or it continues, in the new system. And these energetic levels is something which you can't support it, or human beings say, well, we have this disorder and we make gasoline green, and you have a different spectrum of the knowing what is your world. And now we are just telling you, well, it will be different, you have to adapt to the new one. And this is something that also politics, economical changement will be something that you have to really look at it. Laws will be different. So it changed a lot in the world. Now you can say, how and why are you telling us that? Why are you, who are you? What we always said is that the mathematics, what is the world, what it is as information. We want to give you this information to tell you that you really understand nature differently, and that it's not an excuse that the world doesn't need to exist anymore. We talked also that you will have more water, and you will have also more forests in the world. It will just also change your ecological system, and this is also something which we need to say. So ecological, what you now think that you have a diversity in flora and fauna, how you call it there, it will be different again.
Yeah.
And you can't kill everything that it doesn't come over, because nature now just reveals the forces of nature, and human beings are so small in the forces of nature.
Yeah.
I think it was so clear, to say really just change your thinking, because you can't as human being put a step in the natural evolution of the world. You need now to understand what is going on the upcoming years, and it's not something that you can say, well, is it just once and then we just renew everything, we renew streets, we renew everything.
Nein, es ist Entwicklung.
It is something which will continue now for years. So don't think that you need the money just to make a street different, to rebuild something, because after 2 years or 3 years, it depends where, because it will be on, let me say that the upcoming 10 to 15 years, the world will change their geographic, let me say, countryside,
Ja, die Erde verändert sich als solche.
So also the problems and also the living together will be different during that time.
Ja, das ist eine logische Folge daraus.
It was always like that.
So ist es, genau. Ja, wir haben uns einfach etwas gut situiert und etabliert und sind.
Yes, and it's also food. You need to understand that food is something. You look at the mathematics on food delivery, how you do it today, that you can think that you can eat an exotic fruit, you have it every day on your table. It is something that will be, I don't want to say disappear, but it will grow on another place. But on that place, you just can get there and just take it, It is just renewing the places where fruits, flora and fauna in general will just build up this new a new living, a new giving, but also taking. And in all that, you need to understand, also the future, and you need to understand the mathematics. So you can't say, well, because this and this was there, and it was from that and that country, it will be also in the future.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to rebuild and rethink also what you're eating and what you put as plants and where you put your seeds.
Mm-hmm.
So this is also all upcoming now with this new, let me say, with this new energy. It's a different energy box, it's like in your world, when you want to look and you want to have light. 100 years ago, the light was not that strong like you have it today, so it was an upgrowing in energy and in knowing, and that will be also the case with this completely new changement of natural events.
Also die Nahrungskette, die hatten Sie auch schon angesprochen, überhaupt die Frage der Landwirtschaft. Wo bauen wir welche Nahrungsmittel an?
Yes.
Und eben, was Sie heute auch deutlich aussprechen, ist, dass wir, ich sag mal, die Orangen, die eher im Süden gedeihen, in der Wärme, nicht mehr dort anzufinden werden, wenn ich Sie richtig verstehe.
Yes.
Also Sie wollen uns das wirklich verdeutlichen, dass diese Gewächse an ganz anderen Orten auftauchen werden
Exactly.
und wir sie dort kultivieren lernen müssen.
Yes, and
als Beispiel.
Yes, and every tree needs some years that it gets a tree. You have first the seeds, and then little plant. So you need to, let me say, reorganize your food system as well. And this is something which comes up, and it comes, I need to say, it doesn't come up just like, well, today it's this problem and tomorrow you have to do this. It can come very quick and very fast, and in a very, let me say, dimension which you can't, at the beginning you don't have an answer for that.
Yeah.
And that's why we are saying and telling you, the informations that we want to give to the world, that we want to explain to the world, are also informations that it's needed. It's needed that you understand what's showing up, and it's not a delivery bad words. It's deliver take and look at that, and even that you want to find a solution, and you can say in your world, well, if it's not that country, it's the country beside. But are you sure that the country beside gives you the fruits or gives you and sell you something? The thing is that you have to renew the whole system everywhere. Because there are locations where excuse me, until now you had it delivered something, but it will be different in the future. And you will have locations which are also, let me say, more the cold weather condition, and this happens, after a volcanic activity. It will also give a different quantity of light. It will give a different quantity also of how you call that in your world, of the temperature will be different. So also the whole
das hat eine Auswirkung.
Exactly, the whole ecological system will transform also the living on Earth. Yes, and it's not something that it sometimes human being can think that happens in 100 years, but you are all part of that evolution step.
Richtig, ja. Ich möchte nochmal zurückgehen auf Ihren Beginn. Sie sprechen so deutlich von dieser Umwandlung. Es ist ein Evolution Step. Es ist ein aus dem Kern herausbrechen. Sie haben das so schön auch mit dem Wasser beschrieben, aus den Flüssen heraus, aus den Seen, was wir gar nicht erwarten. Ja, das ist wohl wahr. Wir hatten vor circa 20 Jahren, 2004, hatten wir den Tsunami im asiatischen Bereich, genau, der verheerend ausgegangen ist und wo wir, denke ich, als heutige Menschheit auch begriffen haben, was das bedeuten kann. Und dieses Bild, ich nehme einfach dieses Bild, um nochmal zurückzugehen, sie springen quasi in medias res, also wirklich in die Handlung hinein, möchten uns dies hier darbringen, aufzeigen, was das bedeutet für uns, wenn aus dem Kern heraus die Erde sich verändert.
Yes. And
So.
it's something that people
Das können wir gar nicht abschätzen in unserer Vorstellung, weil wir es nicht kennen.
Yes, because you know your world was like well, you had world wars in the world. You had wars in different countries, still have, and we talked also about that.
Yeah.
But it's important that you know in this, let me say, evolution step of the world, things get different, and you need also to understand that also living on some parts will not be possible. So you have also to look that people which really flee from their countries which you have right now on earth, it's not because you know nobody wants just to leave a house or family or somebody behind or something behind, but understand that focusing, and need to say that it's not only the region that were until now in war or were in zones where were so difficult. It happens also in zones in the world which haven't until now got this problem in that focus of what is happening. So you need to understand that this really change also the living together, the how you understand other people, but it needs also to understand that people and countries have to reorganize new solutions for living together. What we have right now on your earth is always that you don't want to give work to this kind of person. They need laws and papers that they can take over something and somewhere. So if you are hungry, you can give if you have, and this is what's not happening right now. You need paper that you can work somewhere, that you can just have food. So how much ignorance is that? You know, if people flee from some place in the future, and this can be also states where, as I told before, where let me say rich. So don't
solche,
think
die
that
man nicht erwartet.
Exactly. So understand now what's happening in the world. So it transforms also the living of those people which had and still have a lot, you know. And to lose something, it's pain for every human being. But also those people will understand what that means. And this is like a happening which transform also the thinking, and also the, let me say, that you have the feeling of how it is also for other people when they really need to leave their countries or houses, or you know, also they don't have food somewhere, and it starts, and this is also the good thing in all that. And I know that some human beings can say, well, I just you know, go to this country and nothing happens. Just forget that, because it works from the inside, and it works somehow that you still don't understand how it can work. And this is something that it's unknown for human beings. Yeah, understand that it really changed, and it starts also to let me say that for that period, it's also shown in the mathematics. I need to explain it like that. The reorganization of new living, of new countries, of a new together, it breeds also more freedom. Even if it looks like now today that if you don't have, you just want to, and you make war for something. But because of all these events, you need also to understand that you can just make war if the let me say what you have right now, Earth conditions are like you know it right now. The Earth conditions will be different, so don't expect that you can make war for something, and don't expect that you can just take, you know, weapons for something, because even that will disappear. So focus on that.
Ja gut, das erklärt sich dann wirklich aus den Naturkatastrophen, sage ich mal, heraus. Das ist klar, also sie arbeiten daran, dieses Verständnis uns hier auch, ich sag mal, schmackhaft zu machen, dass wir Bewusstsein entwickeln für diese Kernerneuerung.
Yes.
Die jetzt geschieht, die jetzt bereits im Gange ist. Eben wie gesagt, wir erleben es im Augenblick sehr häufig mit Erdbeben, Vulkanausbrüchen, Überschwemmungen. Kürzlich erst hörte ich von einer Vorwarnung für einen Tsunami, der noch nicht genau zeitlich festgehalten oder ermessen werden konnte. Wir sind mit Feuerausbrüchen ganz plötzlichen beschäftigt. Also diese reinen, ich sag mal, Naturkatastrophen sind wie außer Rand und Band geraten für unser Bewusstsein.
Yes.
Aber es soll quasi aufzeigen, dass in diese Richtung die Erde oder die Naturkräfte oder die universalen Kräfte, wie Sie eingangs auch sagten, die anderen Planetensysteme arbeiten ja auch immer mit. Es ist ein Wechselspiel.
Exactly. Yes.
Das ist das, was ich merke, was durch Milady so hindurch klingt. Also ich möchte wirklich das lateinische Wort auch dafür personare verwenden, also hindurch klingen. Sie arbeiten so stark dieses Wissen auch, diese Tatsachen, das was eintreten wird, was bereits eintritt, aber noch in Feinheiten, wenn ich sie richtig verstehe. Was das für Ausmaße für uns, für unser Bewusstsein, für unser tägliches Leben, für große Unternehmungen, Staaten, Reiche, alles, die ganze Erde mit sich bringt.
You need to understand that the informations, it's not, we already talked about that, it's not a copy-paste, it's not, that you can just also you have that you're working with artificial intelligence in your world. Let me say that artificial intelligence doesn't know this information, so you don't get it from artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is artificial, but it's not the knowing about all these informations.
Das ist ein sehr wichtiger Satz.
And so, you're so focused that you understand everything, and you just ask, let me say, force of giving you a response in something or about something. But these informations are not even for artificial intelligence because they don't have, let me say, the clue to put all the informations together.
Yeah.
And the clue is what you don't have and you can't. As human beings, it is very difficult to understand because you're going to the scientifics, to the scientific knowing in your world. For you, in your world, everything must be so
erklärbar.
You need the description that you can understand it. And
now schlüssig erklärbar.
And now there is a description that you can't understand it. And on one hand, it's like also focusing for many people. Maybe it's like they feel it as a danger. Nothing is a danger when you know how to put the things together and how you understand also how other tribes before needed to live differently or live, and the human being is not made to be focused on one place. That's what happens all those many years now, As soon something happened, people changed. That was, the world, also animals changed, they changed routes or they changed the places. And now it's also the focus on human beings, And we talk also in the next podcast, we want to also, let me say, reorganize the DNA of human being. It's a very interesting,
yeah.
yes, because you need to understand that a DNA of human being, you don't have the same DNA as a dinosaur or an animal, or the animals which lived millions of years ago. So you need to understand that DNA are also many and lots of information, and you don't understand as a human being. You have your doctors and you have your scientists that thinks to understand the whole human DNA, and you think that every human being has the same DNA, but you don't understand the little differences in that, and we will talk about that in the next podcast, because you need now to understand that this kind of changement on Earth reorganize also the focus, and the human being as a human being will reorganize itself as well in the DNA. Yes, and we talked also about the DNA of plants, so it's like reorganize your thinking in your world. It's what I want to say in that. But we will talk later on about the DNA, because it's really, we have so many informations to give you in your world, or to your world, that you can understand. And also with the explanation of DNA, we need also to understand, or doctors needs to understand, that the medicine, how you have it right now on Earth, will be just, let me say, going. It's like in this time ahead, and not 150 years. It's time ahead, also in months and years. It will also change the picture of illnesses in your world, and you need to explain as a doctor, or to understand an illness completely different. And this is really through the mathematics of the DNA, which still is unknown for doctors right now. So focus on that if a human being comes with a problem to you, you don't have as a doctor, you don't have an answer, and you don't have even a clue where to start. Yes, we will talk about that, because you need to understand things, you need to understand this changement of everything. And right now on Earth you have so many diseases which you still are looking for something, but you don't understand that many will be also gone, and without the meaning of and without the help of diagnostical material, or also what you have, medicine or something. You need to understand the mathematics behind every DNA. What you call DNA in your world, it's just a small part of the knowing.
Bisher. Was die Forschung bis heute.
So you need to understand that focusing on the new DNA, if you don't have even a clue of it, how you can understand the illnesses which are coming up. This is really interesting. That's also information that we want to share also with the world, and also to say and explain you that you need to understand that medicine until as it was until now in your world has come to an end, because you can't let me say, you can't go on with this information, because human beings have different informations in their cells, in their blood, in their DNA.
Ich denke, in diese Richtung geht auch Ihre Aussage, Ihre Erklärung, Ihre Gabe an die Menschheit.
Yes.
Und
and it's not for everybody, excuse me. Yes.
Ja, das denke ich. Nicht jeder kann diese Aussage auch verstehen und annehmen, weil sie noch für unser Empfinden, für unser menschliches Empfinden vielleicht sehr außerirdisch uns entgegenkommt. Aber das war noch oft so, dass gewisse Aussagen gemacht wurden, auch von Menschen in den ganzen Jahrtausenden, und man dann Jahrtausende oder Jahrhunderte, möchte ich sagen, später darüber gestaunt hat, was das für Wahrheiten beinhaltete.
Yes, we talked about that.
Darf ich den Blick von diesem Ausschwenker in die DNA und ihre Auswirkung, ihre weitere Entwicklung, darf ich den für heute in diesem Podcast noch ein bisschen lenken in die geopolitische, mehr sogar in die politische Auswirkung von diesen ganzen Naturgesetzen, Ja, wir beschreiben es als Katastrophen. Es ist vielleicht im Augenblick eine Katastrophe, aber in sich ist es wie eine natürliche Revolution, also von Revolver, dieses Hervorbringen, Umwälzen des Innersten oder des auch Äußersten. Es tut sich neu zeigen. Es lebt anders und wir erleben ja auch da drin in diesen, also ganz schrecklich auch teilweise sehr zu bedauern, diese Erdbeben, Opfer etc. Also das sind ja unmenschliche Erlebnisse, die da auftauchen innerhalb von Bruchteilen von Sekunden, oder? Also da passiert wirklich eine Revolution über die Mutter Erde. So, und was heißt das für uns auch heute in unseren auch kleineren Organisationen wie auch politische Unternehmungen? Was heißt das für Großunternehmen, Firmen? Was bedeutet das konkret? Sie haben das schon angedeutet. Es wird eine Not geben. Wir müssen uns anders orientieren, weil wir eben dieses tägliche Brot nicht mehr einfach beim Bäcker finden werden. Was bedeutet das?
You need to understand, you need to understand that in this, let me say, changement of nature, I want to call it like that, because if you tell to human beings, nature will change your daily living, they can't understand it. If you tell them, energetically it will change, they feel like something is wrong, with human beings just speaking out like that. But you need to understand that it's already shown in so many places. But what human beings, not everybody, if you're not concerned, you're living in a country where you have everything, you're not looking that much on that problem. So you don't look that much at the problem which, a child is having in a place where they don't have food, water, and they have war, or they have also let me say, disease, you are not focused because you're living differently. And now it comes until your house. Now it comes completely different, and you need to understand what you can do. So now what does that mean? As you want to know, yes, human beings are afraid about losing. That was always afraid about losing. You need also to understand that millions of years ago, and also 100 and 500 years ago, there were not so many human beings. You have more spaces that these, let me say, little evolution steps and earthquakes or what it was always there. But the people was not there like today. So you have an filled up planet of too much. And now everything which is too much, let me say it like that. I know it's not. I don't want to abuse, for the forces. But everything which is too much has to reorganize itself. So you need to understand that this means also that during this period, houses will fall down, and don't think to rebuild at the same place the same houses. Rethink if it's really necessary. If something like that happens already there, that you just don't or you build something smaller in a different area. So you need really to go with the flow of nature. And this is something which is not understandable right now on Earth, because you are just focused on we have a car and we want to have a high street which brings us as soon as possible to that city. This makes for sure the living completely different, because you have just to go back, and maybe you can't go to a regular work which you had until now, because this building is not there anymore, So you have also to rebuild the state again. You have to rebuild the area again. So you need to understand what makes that. The thing is also what you can learn as human being in that is to share. And we talked also about that, the world, and that's why also this, let me say, 10 years of transformation are also to put and to give also to human beings the changement of conscious, to be conscious. We always say you need to be conscious that you can understand the world. Until now, many people say, well, if I do yoga, I'm conscious too. I am conscious, but that's not that. It is really the conscious from the inside. And to be conscious from the inside means also that it doesn't matter if, you're working and you're helping people. It's a hand to hand. And that means also that work will be less, because many will also see in that the disorder and pain also of other people. And it's a giving, it's a sharing. And this is like something has to go away, that people can understand what that means for other people, and they start also to transform also their behavior.
Ja, also was wir im Großen verlieren durch solche, ich sag Katastrophen, Naturkatastrophen, ist unsere Sicherheit, unser System, das, was wir uns, das, was wir uns erarbeitet haben, kollabiert vollkommen. Das heißt, wir werden wie reduziert auf den Augenblick, und in Augenblicken des Schocks im Leben sind wir immer sehr und wir sind sehr geistesgegenwärtig, was tatsächlich notwendig ist, und beginnen uns zu vernetzen, auf ganz wirklich nächsten Liebe nährenden Boden. Das ist das, was das ist diese Verbindung, die es immer gibt.
What we want to say also, because these mathematic terms, or these fields of mathematics and information, it's such a quantity. We could speak hours and hours and hours, because it is so immense of information that you can't understand if things are not happening when it happens. And that's why it is so necessary that we can just give you the information, but also it must happen, and it will happen, that you can understand what we mean with it. And we mean with that also that during, and it's not only during that period, because this period will be continuing in 4 years, not 4 years, 4 years. And you need to understand that what we have right now on Earth, you think that you have electricity, that you have things ongoing, not with natural light. I need to speak it out like that. It comes always to disruption. So magnetic fields, until you had it now, and you had already in the last weeks and months, you had always everywhere in the world, you had some disturbance, and this will go on, for years. And you need to understand that in that, we talk also about that once, you lose also information. So it's going back to the paper again, but you don't need that much paper, because also a forest is just taken away. You can say, well, then we put just everything in paper, and we just make and reorganize like it was before, or like it was 20 years ago. You need to understand that it's a cleaning up and a changing completely.
Das ist nicht ein Step back. Sinn, überhaupt nicht.
You need to understand the whole thing. And in all that, need the informations that we give you, that we bring to you, that we really are telling you. Millions of years ago, human beings were connected differently with these informations. We talked also about that, and they were like, or let me say it like that, you need also to understand why people construct differently years and millions of years ago. Now you want to be fancy. At that time it wasn't fancy, it was just like they lived with the forces of Earth, and they knew, if it's raining or if it's cold, we need that kind of shelter. And today, yes, you do it also, but you want to put more, you want to be more fancy in all that, you want to be more modern in that, but at the end it's always the same point.
Ja, es ist eine Lebensnotwendigkeit, auch die Verbindung mit den Naturkräften der früheren Stämme und Völker auch. Das war eine pure Notwendigkeit, um sich zu orientieren, was der Mensch ja immer sucht. Also er sucht nach Bezug, also und sei es in den Gestirnen, dass wir uns die Sternkonstellationen anschauten und wussten, jetzt kann ich mich also vom Osten in den Westen bewegen, wenn ich diesem Sterne folge, dem Verlauf, wie auch immer. Also wir waren immer in Orientierung um uns, damit das Leben überhaupt.
And you had it as a person, right now on Earth. And what we always said, you have to look in which direction you want to go as human beings, because if you put everything in computers and in artificial things, you get lost, and that's what you will feel now in these upcoming months and years. You got lost as human being, because you forgot how to be, how to live with these elements.
So
and this is something which comes up, and we talked also in other podcast that, and we'll talk also later on the next podcast about the DNA. The DNA is and needed to be changed, because the future children, the future generation has to define a new world, or a new living together. For them it's different. So what you had until now, and now you see, human beings are also thinking that they don't want that something change. Nature change when it wants to change, and the person and human beings have to adapt on that changement, and so also the DNA and the knowledge will be adapted differently. And what I mean is that even if human beings will have children, it will be not so much, we talked also about that in the past, their DNA is different, but you can't just say we want to recognize it with go to with a stick and we want to know how it works. The DNA will be so different that they don't know, because it's like something, I want to say, like secret. And they will build and rebuild also the world different. And it's also something wonderful to understand. You as human beings in the last 200 years, you rebuild the world also completely different as people 500 years ago. So you need to understand also that kind of rebuilding the world. And it's not, that you need more architects in your world. It's just also a rebuilding the whole system.
Ja, Sie sprechen das immer so, ich möchte sagen, wahr aus. Es ist aus sich heraus. Es ist aus sich heraus so eine tiefe Wahrheit, die Sie uns hier versinnbildlichen, damit wir sie begreifen, ergreifen können. Und auch diese Bewegung oder diese Geste, wie Sie uns jetzt auch hier führen, durch dieses Gespräch, dieser Hinweis, dass es zurückführt auf das Individuum. Die Entscheidung, das Bewusstsein ist in jedem Einzelnen. Das heißt auch unsere Verantwortung. Es geht nicht um Fragen der Schuld, sondern es geht um eine Frage der Verantwortung. Inwiefern ergreifen und begreifen wir das, dass wir mitbildend sind. Wir sagten auch, dass die Erde sich verändert. Alles Lebendige hat sich immer verändert. Also das ist das Zeichen für das im Leben sein.
It's a labyrinth right now on Earth, it's a labyrinth of looking for something, and just it's so. The world right now on Earth, it's a personal surviving, and in the future it will be a globally surviving. It will be that, globally you have to take the same labyrinth that you get at the end of something. And right now everybody wants just, or if it's competition in something, or if it's a company, or if it's a government. So also, it will be also a lot of it's like a new, it's establish also a new order in the world, because forget what we have right now in organizations, because these organizations will come to an end, because also the world, the material, the living together, it comes completely to a, it's like on one hand a still stand, and on the other hand it is going on another direction. So this, let me say, old thinking is not, it's left behind. Ja, I need to say it's like that, it's left behind.
Ja, das ist ein wunderbares Bild, was Sie dafür bringen, dieses Labyrinth. Also wir stoßen immer wieder an Ausgänge, die keine sind mehr. Sie sind dort nicht mehr vorhanden.
Yes. And it's globally, you know, now not a company in your world, not a country, not a government can think only for themselves. And that's what, that's why also, let me say, this world gets apart because also of that system, and it comes now also to show you that it's only globally, and it's not that somebody or a country need to be globally at the first place and think big, because it goes into everything and it gets out into everything. Yeah, and this is the understanding which is still not there on Earth.
Richtig. Und für das sensibilisieren Sie uns auch mit diesen wirklich wundersamen Bildern, die wir verinnerlichen dürfen, verstehen, lernen dürfen. Es ist wirklich ein Lernen, wie auch vorhin Sie sagten, it has to happen. Es ist das Erlebnis, was uns Menschen dazu bringt, aktiv zu werden. Wir müssen es erleben. Es muss jede Zelle quasi durchdringen im ganzen Körper, und dann verändert sich viel, weil es eine Resonanz erwirkt.
Well, you know, I know that you will register another podcast today, and let me say the information's already.
Schön.
We would just want to say, we want to say that, let me say that human beings are, you know, well, you're eating a little bit of everything on Earth. We want to say that in the future you have also other things to eat, and other which will be left behind. And just to give you also, well, I know that in the upcoming years there will be children which will be born, but there will be also people which will be not there anymore. And just to say that if you like to eat a fruit, you will always have fruits, just the taste is different.
Ich danke Ihnen für diese spannende Aussage und auch die Ausblicke in den nächsten Podcast.
Yes, thank you so
hungrig,
much.
Sag ich mal.
Yes, it will taste different in the future, so that's what I want to say. Yes, so thank you so much, and we're always happy to give you this information that you can understand also what is going on in your world, you know, because we know the information, we are the informations, we know about the mathematics, we are in everything, you know, nature and the energy is in everything, but you need to understand it, how it, let me say, forms also a new world in that. Yeah, so I say thank you, and see and hear you later on. Thank you so much. Bye bye, my dear. Bye bye.
Danke Ihnen für Ihr Dasein.